All right, hey everyone, this is Ash. Welcome back to the King's Speech. So we just finished wrapping up recording on all the Shonen Jump content for today. So we got Akane Banashi, we got Spy Family, we got some more Goku Rakugai. All this should be out on the channel by now. So as promised yesterday, we're going to dive into some more Yona of the Dawn here in a second. But before that, if you haven't already, please do consider subscribing to the channel, liking, commenting, all that good stuff, especially if you enjoy my videos and my content, because it really helps motivate me to keep creating, and it also helps YouTube's algorithm to learn that my videos are worth promoting, because it really likes it when you push those buttons, gives a little endorphin push. So if you'd like to help me out with that, that would be greatly appreciated. But without further ado, let us dive into it with Yona of the Dawn, Volume 34, with story and art by Mizuho Kusanagi. And I have to say, I'm excited to dive into more of this backstory with Yuhan and Il. So we have chapter 193. So chapter 193, the cost of special treatment. Good lord. So you have Yuhan going, Yanhi, I've executed all of the priests. Now no one can learn your secret or snoop around or try to take advantage of you. I'll make sure Il keeps quiet. You can be at ease. And you can see she's absolutely taken aback by this revelation, this news. And she goes, that day when the high priest and the others learned of my lineage, they tracked down my tribe at the residence that Prince Yuhan had provided on the outskirts of Kuto and forced their way in. Prince Yuhan was furious. He executed many of the priesthood, starting with the head priest. He even burned down the temple. His actions angered King Junam, who gave him a harsh reprimand. But the people, suspecting that the priesthood had been overly involved in political matters, took Prince Yuhan's side. And you have one of the attendants goes, priesthood trainees, you say? She's like, yes, please. Look for a pair of novices, a girl named Kashi and a little boy named Iksu. It's like, I understand, but I'm told most priests have been executed. I doubt they're still alive. It's like, surely the children were spared. And she's like, Lady Yanhi, how blessed you are. She's like, huh? It's like, do you really not know? In battle, Prince Yuhan doesn't hesitate to torture his enemies, however cruelly. If women and children must be burnt at the stake, he does it. But his willingness to do what he must is how we can subdue other nations. It's why our people have such peace. And she's like, but the priests were subjects of Koka. It's like, the priests tried to rise above the king. Prince Yuhan will be king of Koka someday. The people understand that he did what was necessary for those he needs to protect. You have, a month after the purge, I visited my tribe on the outskirts of Kuto. It's like, it's so big. You're Yonki. It's like, you came. He's like, hello, uncle, everyone. It's like, where's my mother? I want to see her. And they're all just silent before they go, she's dead. Man, just hit after hit after hit. And it's like, what? It's like, your mother Yoshino took her own life. It's like, what are you saying? It's like, we have no idea what's going on. You know that the high priest came here, don't you? It's like, oh no. It's like, did you do something to mother? It's like, no. He came to express his heartfelt gratitude to us. He was heartbroken to hear of the suffering we've endured for generations. Hearing of our short lives, he wept. He told us our very existence gave the priests hope. We thought our suffering was finally at an end. How can such an honorable man have been burned alive at the stake? Yoshino lamented having revealed our secret to Prince Yuhan. She blamed herself for causing the deaths of so many priests and hanged herself. And she's like, no, it was because of me. It's like, Yanhi, we don't understand. Why was the high priest executed? And she's like, for barging into our tribe's home when Prince Yuhan had forbidden them to pry. He's like, is that enough to justify such awful deaths? Did they kill anyone? Did they steal anything? Did they deceive anyone? The high priest sensed your lineage, didn't he? Doesn't that prove he was a genuine priest? When I met him, I finally felt my life had meaning. It's like, this is too cruel. And you see them all just kind of weeping. You see later that evening as she's leaving, you have, the high priest was genuinely delighted that descendants of the Crimson Dragon King had been revealed. When he went to see them, he was executed. Based on my impression of him, I was suspicious and afraid. I tried to convince myself that the high priest had done something wrong. And I even got those children involved. I see a clop clop as you see Yuhan coming in galloping on his horse. He's like, Yonhi, I've come for you. He's like, why are you crying? She's like, my mother has passed away. He's like, she what? He's like, let's see your tribe and ask why. And she's like, wait, it's because you... And he looks back at her as her tears are streaming down her face. It thinks back to him saying, I promise you I'll protect Yonhi and all of you. And she's like, if I'd never met you, would that have prevented anyone from getting hurt? Would they all still be alive? If I weren't descended from the Crimson Dragon King, if I had never been born... She's like, Yonhi. He's like, don't cry. He's like, you terrify me. It's like, don't cry. It's like, you mean so much to me. You see later, as she's more grown up, you have Suwon. Suwon, where are you? It's like, Prince Suwon. It's like, any luck? It's like, no. It's like, honestly, I look away for 1 second and he disappears. It's like, Yonhi. It's like, Prince Suwon. It's like, he snuck into my office. It's like, oh dear, I'm so sorry to see little baby Suwon. It's like, he quoted a conversation from a meeting. She's like, what? And you have about 9 years have passed. Prince Yuhan is known as a hero for his many victories against foreign nations. You have baby Suwon going, I'm back, mother. General Sujin's discussion was quite interesting. It's like, you understood what he was talking about? It's like, father said he'll let me watch some military exercises. And she's like, I had been in poor health for a long time, but I was finally blessed with a son. He's very cheerful and has boundless curiosity. He's 3 times as active and talkative as the average person. And you see baby Suwon just playing like with a little sword stick. It's like, military exercises? Isn't he too young for that? And he's like, it's normal for the royal family. He's a clever one. I'm sure he'll be a great man and leave his mark on history. It's like, Yonhi, I hear Il has taken a wife. It's like, he got married out of the blue and refused to have a large wedding. She's like, why? It's like, apparently his wife's face is badly scarred and he doesn't want others to see it. I was right. It's like, she's a commoner, so naturally the nobility objected to the marriage. But our father approved, surprisingly. And she's like, what do you think about it, Prince Yuhan? He goes, I'll support his choice in this. After all, when we married, Il gave us his blessing. And she's walking Suwon through the garden. She's like, Prince Il has gotten married. I haven't seen much of him for a long time. He's kept his distance from Prince Yuhan. He seems to keep himself within the palace. And he thinks back to Yuhan saying, I'll support his choice. And she's like, huh? Are you all right? She sees this bedraggled-looking woman with like this long flowing hair, a long black hair slumped nearby. She's like, are you feeling unwell? What's the matter? Oh, sorry, that's not baby Suwon that saw her. And he's like, can you stand? Let's move into the shade. I was like, shall I call someone? And she just shakes her head. And she's like, I've never seen her before. Right now, no one is allowed into this garden without special permission from the royal family. And you have baby Suwon just fanning her, like, I'll fan you! And as the hair blows it away, you see like a burn scar across her face. And he's like, Suwon, that's enough. He's like, okay. And she's like, I apologize for my unsightly appearance. Like, not at all. It's like a burn. And it's like his wife's face is badly scarred. And she's like, may I ask, are you Prince Il's wife? He's like, yes, I am. He's like, oh, I see. So you're the one. I'm glad to meet you. I'm Prince Yuhan's wife, Yonhi. And this is my son, Suwon. It's a pleasure to... And she goes, pleased to meet you. Oh, sorry, Suwon goes, pleased to meet you. What happened to your face? She's like, Suwon! She's like, I'm so sorry for his rudeness. And she goes, her positions are reversed now, aren't they, Lady Yonhi? And as she finally looks at her, she finally recognizes her and she goes, Kashi? So you're alive? And you see Prince Il coming in to step in front of them to interrupt. He's like, Prince Il! He's like, let's go. He's like, wait, please! He's like, Kashi is alive? For so long I thought... He goes, that girl is dead. She died that day in the temple. Please, don't bother her anymore. And she's like, I won't tell anyone, I promise. It's like, Prince Il, this is all my fault. Please blame me. But Prince Yuhan is... It's like, that's enough. I'm quite happy now. And he leads Kashi away. And he's like, I held out hope that however long it took, we could find a middle ground. At that time, I was blissfully unaware. It's like, Lady Yonhi, how blessed you are. That attendant was pointing out how naive I was. And you see the next page. It was an uncomplicated birth then? It's like, yes, mother and child are both well. It's like, Prince Il must be delighted. It's like, the baby is a girl named Yona. We should send them a commemorative gift soon. It's like, Yona. It's like, she has red hair. Very unusual. It's like chapter 194, The Tenacity of Red Blood. So you have Yon Hee going, Suwon left his room again? It's like, I'm sorry, I'm searching for him. I'm searching for him now. It's like, honestly, he's always wandering off and back. He's like a cat. It's got me used to it by now. You have Lady Yon Hee, it's Prince Suwon. It's like, you found him? And you see Il kind of just leading him back by the hand, looking combined, kind of emotionalist. And she's like, Prince Il. It's like, Suwon, where were you? It's like, I went to visit Yona. It's like, you visited her? It's like, he snuck into my wife's chambers. My guards let him pass, but I'd like you to be more careful. I don't want him anywhere near Kashi or Yona. And she's like, I'm very sorry. And it's like, it's been 6 months since Yona was born. Neither Prince Yuhan nor I laid eyes on Kashi. Only a handful of the people in the palace were allowed near her and Yona. And he's like, how come? When I was little, plenty of people visited me every day. I think Yona would enjoy that too. And Il just looks like with this look of disdain. He's like, this boy offends me. It's like, well, I never. Prince Suwon is a small child. How can he be so cold? And Yon, he's like, Suwon, did you do something? He's like, Yona's red hair was so fuzzy and she was so cute that I stroked her head. I was gentle. Then Lady Kashi picked her up and Uncle Il threw me out. It's like, oh my, how cruel of Prince Il. Prince Suwon will be the crown prince someday. And Yon, he's like, is Prince Il wary of Suwon as well as Prince Yuhan? He used to be so kind to little children. And Suwon's like, am I offensive? So maybe Yona didn't like it either. So I told him that wasn't true and held him tight, but my words didn't seem to reach him. Months passed. As Prince Yuhan was busy with wars and politics, I started to see Kashi in the garden with Yona. And it's like, that's Igni of the Fire Tribe. So I'm glad to know Kashi has friends. I'll leave for today and try not to bother them. It's like, Suwon. It's like, Mother. It's like, Suwon, we're leaving. It's like, Suwon, what are you doing? And you see he's climbed up a tree. It's like, I'm coming down now. You have a thump. It's like, that was fun. It's like, who is this now? And you see Baby Huck also brushing leaves off himself. It's like, his name is Huck. Huck? He said he was following General Mundok of the Wind Tribe who was attending the 5-Tribe Council. He got lost when standing in front of the garden, so I invited him in. Huck is amazing! He can climb the tallest tree like a squirrel. He was moving from tree to tree, but I wasn't going to be outdone, so I kept climbing higher with him. He was like a noble beast. And you have a slow down, Suwon. If he's lost, we should take him straight to General Mundok. It's like, I'm not lost, and I didn't need follow him. He dragged me along. And Suwon's like, he wasn't lost, just going for a walk. Sorry, Huck. It's like, Mother, may I play with Huck a little longer? As he just grabs his hand. And she's like, he's never had any friends his own age in the palace. It's like, alright, but climbing trees is dangerous, so... And you hear, Lady Yon Hee, it's been quite some time. And she's like, Igni, I didn't realize you were in the garden. Please forgive me for taking... Oh, sorry, it's Igni going, I didn't realize you were in the garden. Please forgive me for taking so long to greet you. She's like, it's fine, don't mind me. It's like, oh, Igni, you mustn't, just ignore me. Kashi's over there with Yona, and you see Kashi's kind of slightly bowing to her. And she's like, is it alright for me to approach her? She's like, I'd also like to apologize for my disrespect to you over the years. She's like, Kashi? And she sees Yona. And she's like, when I first laid eyes on her, I nearly fell to my knees on the spot. I don't know why. It's just that her beautiful red hair reminded me of the Crimson Dragon King, who I'd almost forgotten about. And it's like, Yona. It's like, hello. It's like, hello, Yona. I'm Yon Hee. I'm your father's older brother's... It's like, huh? Yona? Wow, you're so big now, but I knew it was you from your fuzzy red hair. And you see Suwon's going for a hug. It's like, hold on, Suwon. It's like, I'm your cousin, Suwon. And Kashi's like, Lady Yon Hee, it's alright. I'm sorry. And he's like, Yona, this is Huck. And he's like, why me? And Yona just stares unimpressed, like, I don't think she likes me. Should I leave? So you're not allowed to leave. She's just nervous because of all the strangers, right? He's like, there's a cat in the garden. Want to go see? I saw it while climbing the trees. It's like, a cat? So you saw a cat? I want to see it. Yona, cats are so furry and cute. And Yon, he's like, wait, where are you going? It's like, we won't leave the garden. And you see Baby Huck just grabbing Yona's arm as he's dragging her along. And you see that as she does, Kashi just grabs Huck and pulls him back. And she goes, please, protect Yona. And Baby Huck's confused by this. It's like, will the children be alright alone? Should I go with them? And Kashi's like, it's fine. We can still see them. Nothing bad will happen today. And Igni's like, Lady Kashi truly is mysterious. She speaks as a fortune teller might, like when her daughter was born. She said that this child is under the protection of the white, blue, green, and yellow guardians. And she's like, what does that mean? It's like, it's nonsense. Pay it no mind. And Igni's like, my. It's like, nonsense. But back then, Kashi said, it's like, I felt it too, High Priest. I sensed the blood of the Crimson Dragon King within her. It's like she recognized my lineage. Yeah, Lady Igni, General Sujin is calling. He's like, I'm very sorry, I must head back. It's like, thank you, Igni, it's been fun. And you see Lady Yonhi. The children seem to be getting along. Adorable, aren't they? And she's like, Kashi, just after you and Prince Il were married, he said he was happy. Are you happy? And she goes, I believe Prince Il's happiness was because I was blessed with a red-haired child. And she's like, but Yona hadn't been born yet. So did you know you'd have a red-haired child? Kashi, what do you see? And she goes, people's futures, other people's, not mine. So the future? So since childhood, I could see and feel things imperceptible to others. Only the High Priest ever showed me sympathy. He taught me that the gods were sending me important messages. When I became pregnant, I felt my power grow even stronger. On the day Prince Il saved me from the burning temple, I sensed a red glow that descended between the two of us. I asked him to make me his wife. I said that was how his wish would be fulfilled. And she's like, he wished for a red-haired child? Is Akashi, that child, Yona, what is she? Earlier Igni said that she's protected by white, blue, green, and yellow guardians. It's as if that sounds just like the Crimson Dragon King. And you see a throb as Yonhi's clutching her head. It's like, what does this mean? How can Yona, why now? Why your daughter? It's like, what's happening? She goes, I don't see everything. I only know that she will reunite the 4 dragon warriors. It's like, the dragons? It's like, they are waiting for her arrival. It's like, but that, it makes no sense. She isn't a ruler or even of that bloodline. If she's the Crimson Dragon King, then I, Suan, my tribe, what is our purpose? And you have Yonhi, you're a child of a special tribe with sacred blood. We who are still here must protect that. It's like, mother, there, see? I knew it. There was no reason to protect this blood. And Kashi goes, even if I can see the future, all I can do now is support Prince Il and fulfill my duty as Yona's mother. So what will I do? It's like, me too. It's like, even so, devoting my life to Prince Yuhan and Suwon is my only path forward. But what should I do? Kashi, can you see my future? It's like, I have a terrible headache. It's like, I've started to show symptoms. Oh God, I beg you, please spare Suwon from this pain. Do you have prayers? You only pray when it suits you, and you already burned all the gods. And you see later with Yuhan going, Yonhi, how are you feeling? She's like, I can manage. And he goes, don't overexert yourself. You're not well. And she's like, the headaches come and go. Nearly 2 years have passed. And she's like, I can tolerate this degree of pain. I still haven't told Prince Yuhan that I have the Crimson Sickness. And you see an E and a yay. She sees Suwon and Yona playing nearby. And you have a whisper of the Prince Yuhan. It's like, what? It's like, Prince Yuhan. It's like, my father's collapsed. He's apparently in critical condition. And you see on the next page him going, what did you say? It's like, Father, you're too ill to make sound decisions right now. We can discuss this once things settle down. You've managed to recover somewhat. He goes, my sons, hear my words. I don't have long. The next king will be ill. This is the final decree of Junam, king of Koka. So you have chapter 195, Final Wish. You have 2 days later, King Junam passed away. You have Prince Il was heir to the throne. This came as a terrible shock to not only the Sky Tribe in the palace, but to all the other tribes as well. Prince Yuhan was undefeated in battle and had become immensely popular with the public. He was expected to become a king who would surpass King Junam. Even Yuhan himself was shocked. It's like, why? Why did he choose Il? Il is a bad choice. He isn't suited for this. Why wasn't I chosen? After the loss of the temple, King Junam and Prince Il would visit the mausoleum to the Crimson Dragon King below the palace to offer their prayers of devotion. I suspect His Majesty never forgave Prince Yuhan for executing the priests. It brings me great anguish. Prince Yuhan wasn't chosen because he sought to protect me. Well, I'll talk about that at the end. And you see again in the gardens as they're playing, Yonhi suddenly collapses and like, Lady Yonhi! And Kashi catches her and goes, don't push yourself too hard. He's like, I can't help myself. And she's like, I thought my role was to raise Suwon as a successor. And she's like, Kashi, you sense that Yona was the Crimson Dragon King, right? Does that have anything to do with Prince Il being chosen as king? Did you tell King Junam that she was the Crimson Dragon King? She goes, telling him or not telling him wouldn't change her destiny. She's like, then is my role finished? It's like, no, I never had a role to begin with. It's like, despite your lineage, you're an ordinary person. She doesn't have special abilities either. Everything she gains will be through her own efforts, as is true for you. And she's like, I haven't worked for anything. It's like, Lady Yonhee, the fact that you exist has brought people joy. Can't you believe that? It's like, you think so? It's like, if I didn't exist, it's like, Lady Yonhee, I truly wished I could talk to you more. It's like, Lady Yonhee! And you see her collapsing. And you see later Yuhan's visiting her bedside. She's like, Prince Yuhan. It's like, they said you collapsed in the garden. It's like, I'm so sorry. I felt a bit dizzy. I'm fine now. He's like, Yonhee, I said I would protect you. Don't hide things from me. And he goes, I revealed that I had been afflicted with the crimson sickness. She's like, what? Suwon, you're leaving the palace? He's like, I'm moving someplace quiet where my mother can recuperate. It's like, is Lady Yonhee all right? Won't I see you anymore? It's like, it'll be fine. I'll still come to visit. He's like, I'll be leaving Hiryu Palace soon. It's like, am I going to die like this? You have Lady Yonhee. His Majesty is like, someone is here? Who is it? And you see King Il next to her. He's like, King Il. He's like, stay as you are, Yonhee. Don't trouble yourself. I heard you were sick, so I came to see how you are. I won't get to see you often now. She's like, King Il came to visit me? He's like, I've probably caused you pain. Even though you aren't to blame, I was. I was sometimes cold toward you. The King Il, what are you? I also. It's like, you've been very kind to Kashi. It's like, I wish I was able to do more. It's like, I'm thankful for that, for you and Kashi. It's like, I'm sorry. It's like, please take care of yourself so you can eventually get better. It's like, I'm so sorry, King Il. And you see like a little montage of time passing. Then you have, how was the coronation? It's like, I had no idea coronation could be so quiet. No one cheered at all. Everyone stared gloomily at Il's crown. They were like prisoners of a defeated nation. But despite the atmosphere, Il went through with the ceremony. Personally, I was starting to get annoyed by how sulky everyone was. She's like, huh? What kind of attitude is that to show you're a new king? Il is doing just fine. Don't get depressed before he's even done anything. He's like, only Mundok yelled out, long live King Il. It's like, as expected from him. It's like, if Il has few allies, they need to support him so he can rule the nation. It's like, Prince Yuhan. It's like, when I think about it, whether I'm king or not isn't that important. Protecting the royal family and its subjects is my main desire. From now on, I'll assist my brother and continue fighting on the front lines. He's like, yes. He hasn't changed since the first day we met. He still cares about King Il. This is probably what I wanted to see. Everything's fine now. I'm sure the two of them are. It's like, today was my first good look at Kashi. I have no idea what kind of woman she is. She's like, Kashi? It's like, that's enough. Get some rest now. And you have the attendant going, I've bought some tea. It's like, huh? It's like, Prince Yuhan. About Queen Kashi. The other day, she and Lady Yonhee had a strange discussion. She said Princess Yona is the Crimson Dragon King, which might have something to do with King Il being chosen to rule. It's like, what does it all mean? It's like, I'm not sure, but I remembered that after the temple burned, Yonhee asked me to find some priesthood novices, a girl named Kashi and a boy named Iksu. You see later with baby Suwon going, Minsu, the book you loaned me was really interesting. And this is 8-year-old Suwon. He's like, I'm returning it. He's like, what? And you see baby Minsu, 7 years old. It's like, you finished it? It's like, that's amazing. It took me 5 days. You have, Keishuk, who's 15 years old. He's like, would you like to read this as well? It's quite fascinating. He's like, well, I prefer military tactics to medical texts. He's like, I can lend you books on military tactics. Please come by the library. And Yonhee's like, things sure have become lively here. It's like, I'm sorry you have to deal with my son Minsu as well. It's like, no, Suwon's the one who talks the most. Minsu's very quiet and Keishuk doesn't stand out much. Besides, I felt a bit better since you came. It's like, you're too kind. It's like, there's no special cure for the crimson sickness right now. I'm getting by with sleeping pills. It makes sense. This illness is like a curse. But since coming here, I've felt more relaxed. And you have a visitor coming today, don't you? It's like, that's right. Queen Kashi is coming. It's like, the queen? It's like, I invited her. Normally I'd have gone to the palace, but she was kind enough to come here. He's like, is Yona coming too? He's like, yes, I think so. Hooray! He's like, let's play with her, Minsu. He's like, with Princess Yona? He's like, is it alright for me to do so? It's like, of course, you too, K-Shook. It's like, I'll pass. You see, Kashi and Yona never reached our home. As she traveled here, Kashi's carriage was attacked by bandits. She was killed. Yona wasn't with her. She escaped harm. It was the first time Kashi had left the palace since marrying Prince Il. This happened because I invited her here. And you see her just kind of like crying and lamenting all this. You have, Mother, I'll be going now. I'll stay at the palace for a while. Yona must be in tears. And she's like, yes, I want you to stay with her. It's like, if anything happens, send a messenger. And you see Yuhan walking in. He goes, how are you? It's like, I'm all right. It's like, I wonder how King Il is doing. It's like, I'll see him in person in the coming days. You need to eat well and get some sleep. And she's like, I'm sure King Il is in tears too. You need to comfort him. He's like, I know, the Crimson Sickness. Since marrying you, I grow more resentful of the Crimson Dragon King by the day. Who cares if he was the first king? Who cares if he's a god? I won't let him destroy what I care for. He's like, Prince Yuhan, I'm happy because you and Suwon are with me. Please allow me to live at your side as long as I can. It's like the gods would not grant my final wish. 2 months later, Prince Yuhan passed away. And you see with the Lady Yonhee, please, won't you eat just a little bit? And you have, Mother, how is she? From a baby Minsu. And she just shakes her hands like, I see. She must be devastated. I can hardly believe that Prince Yuhan is no longer with us. You have chapter 196, make the thieves share the pain of their victims. You have Prince Yuhan has passed away. He went out riding and fell from a cliff. I couldn't bring myself to look closely at his broken body. Why did he go before me? Everyone is going before me. You have, Mother, shall we go outside? A stroll might help your appetite. It's like, I'm sorry, I can't get up. The world is too dark and terrifying. I can't stop trembling. It's like, what am I saying? Suwon isn't like me. He has such a strong will. You see baby Suwon just getting in bed next to her like, we can chat here then. After Queen Kashi died, I stayed by Yona's side. Now I'll stay by yours, Mother. I'll take Father's place. I can't do it right away, but please be patient. She's like, what a kind child. I'm so grateful to have been blessed with him. Later that night, she's like, I fell asleep without realizing. Wonder where Suwon went. It's like, I need to pull myself together. However cheerful Suwon may seem, he's lost his beloved father. He's grieving too. It's like, huh? What's going on? A gathering of some sort? It's like Suwon, K-Shook, and Prince Yuhan's guards. What are they doing at this hour? And we see Suwon going, I've examined my father's corpse. It's like, what did you learn? It's like, his corpse? They exhumed Prince Yuhan's grave? Suwon, what are you up to? It's like, his body was severely damaged, but I found evidence that he was stabbed in the back. It's like, so what K-Shook said was true. I thought it was strange, as if Prince Yuhan would accidentally fall from a cliff. Now we know for sure. Prince Yuhan was killed by King Il. It's like, what did he say? It's like, I still can't believe that pathetic king could defeat our prince. And K-Shook's like, it wasn't a duel. King Il stabbed him in the back. It's like, how underhanded. How did this happen? K-Shook, you were accompanying him, weren't you? What happened? He's like, I only accompanied him to the palace. When they went riding, he asked me to stay behind so they could talk alone. King Il inviting him concerned me, so I quietly followed him at a distance. At first, they seemed to be discussing trivial things. And you see Yuhan going, I never expected you to invite me out riding. I think this is the first time ever. And Il's like, I needed a bit of a diversion. I haven't been outside since Kashi died. It's like, I see. You can always call on me. And he's like, brother, Kashi was a survivor of the priesthood of priestesses. Did you know that? He's like, no, I had no idea. And Il's like, I see. And he stabs him in the back. And he's like, Il, you... It's like, why do you seem so surprised? We're brothers. I can tell when you're lying. You knew, didn't you? Or rather, you found out. That's why you killed Kashi, isn't it? He's like, Prince Yuhan killed Kashi? It's like, is that true? Did he kill Queen Kashi? It's like, he couldn't allow a survivor of the purge to live. It's like, no, he didn't say that. He's like, Il, if she'd only been an ordinary novice, I would have overlooked her. It's like, what do you mean by that? You're always like this. You make judgments and force them on people who can't understand. That's a grave sin. It's like, but it's true, she was no ordinary priestess. She gave birth to Yona, the Crimson Dragon King. She was a supreme mother. It's like, Il, she deceived you. It's like, she wasn't like that. Father understood. I was afraid she deceived him as well. Don't you understand this could bring down the nation? It's like, you're the one who's been twisted, brother. Yona is the Crimson Dragon King reborn. She and the 4 legendary dragons will defend our nation. He goes, enough of this. Stop clinging to absurd delusions and look at reality. You are the ruler of Coca. If you reign as a proper king, I will gladly swear my loyalty to you. I will devote the rest of my life to you. But don't put your faith in such nonsense. You can't leave our nation in the hands of gods. And Il crying goes, I can't take another step with you. And as Yuhan tries to stagger him, he shoves him off a cliff. He's like, Prince Yuhan desperately tried to reason with King Il and his nonsensical accusations. He never drew his sword. He was pushed from the cliff. It's Acacia, you bastard! Sorry, my dogs are being dicks. Alright, my dogs are settled down a little bit, so let's continue. And you have, was it Hugh Lee going, you bastard, if you're watching, why didn't you save Prince Yuhan? You should have drawn your sword and stopped King Il, or ill rather. And Suwon's like, Kashuk was wounded in battle. His limbs aren't strong enough for that. He's like, you're useless. I should have been at his side. It's like, how terrible. This is so terrible. I knew Il becoming king was some kind of mistake. That priest has probably filled the late King Junam's head with Il's lies. And the one who should have been king had to abide with the late king's decree. It's like, Il, that man cannot be forgiven for this. He's like, King Il killed Prince Yuhan, but only because Prince Yuhan had killed Kashi. He had her killed on her way to visit me. Kashi, Prince Yuhan. It's like, we can't allow that man to hold the throne. We must do whatever it takes to overthrow him and crush that arrogant Crimson Dragon King notion. It's like, that's right, we must follow Prince Yuhan and defend this nation. Jeff, wait, slow down. And Suwon goes, we shouldn't choose a course of action while so worked up. It's like, Suwon, it's like, but it's like, we don't know enough about King Il's intentions. If we replace him and a power struggle ensues, the nation will fall into chaos. Please give me some time. It's like, Suwon, it's like, he's so composed, only 9 years old. He asked me to exhume Prince Yuhan's grave. He said if he did it himself, he'd have an excuse if he was caught. His own father's corpse didn't unsettle him. It's like, yeah, I'm thinking the same thing. If he becomes king, perhaps Prince Yuhan's unrealized dream of bringing the whole continent under Koka's control might come true. And sees later that evening as she goes to visit Suwon. She sees him finally expressing some emotions as he's got like this fury radiating off of him as he's staring at a burning candle. He's like, oh, mother, out for a walk? I was surprised not to find you here. She's like, He's like, go to bed or you'll worsen your health. He's like, Suwon. He's like, did you hear something? He's like, King Il is like, I won't do anything to him for now. He's like, for now? He's like, don't you want to kill him as soon as possible? And she's like, I'm sorry, mother. It'll be difficult to do that right away. We need to see whether King Il can protect the nation. I don't know what to make of all that talk about Yona being the Crimson Dragon King reborn, though. And she's like, and if you determine that King Il cannot protect the nation, he goes, we'll make him step down. Alternatively, he's like, Suwon. It's like, father was right. He's like, we can't leave Koka in the hands of gods. I'm glad that father's last words resonate with me. She's like, Suwon, wait. It's like, this is so confusing. Where should I start? What can I say? It's like, I understand your hatred for King Il, but Yona, what will you do about Yona? If you condemn King Il, Yona will suffer too. It's like, how can he be? It's like, you two are so close, aren't you? It's like, so dispassionate. And he goes, mother, King Il and Yona are two different matters. It's like, what? It's like, if you put everything into the same box, you'll never find an answer. Father said that unless you make efficient decisions and respond quickly, you'll ruin the nation. I'm close to Yona, but I don't think it's right to base decisions on that. I told you I'd take father's place. I have no need for gods. I'll see everything through myself. You have chapter 197, Shaky Handwriting. And we have Yona finally back in the present with, Uncle Yuhan killed my mother. That's why my father killed him. I wasn't in the carriage when it was attacked, and I can only think it's because I wasn't there because mother had sensed something. She protected me. And you have, with each passing day, my headaches worsen. It has become difficult to stay conscious. I suspect I'm not long for this world. I've kept this journal in secret and have decided to entrust it to you while I'm still awake and aware. I have asked my trusted physician, Su Mei, to deliver it to you. King Il, I realize I've forced this on you without warning. I haven't much strength to hold a brush, so please forgive my messy writing. If you despise everything to do with me and Prince Yuhan, burn this journal if that's what you wish. And she's like, this was in my father's possession, not Suwon's? It's like, however, I want to do all I can to prevent the future that may await you and Yona. It's like, Prince Yuhan's adoring subordinates have continued to gather at my residence. I can't tell what sort of people they are, but a few of them appear to be military officers from the palace. Suwon is at the heart of it all. He and I haven't discussed your majesty again. At this time, or rather going forward, I have no way of knowing how he regards you. It terrified me when he asked if I wanted to kill you without so much as batting an eye. I didn't want to believe someone as kind as Suwon would say such a thing. But the truth is, I didn't really know him. None of how he presented himself to me was an act. It was his true self. As I face death, I feel like I'm coming to grips with that. I cherish and love him above all else, no matter what anyone thinks. That will never change. So why am I entrusting this to you and endangering his position? You must find it suspicious. In the past, my biased view of the high priest made me feel things that bordered on bigotry. As a result, I made a preventable mistake. If I tried to understand the high priest and ask Prince Yuhan to find a compromise, if I had tried harder, perhaps all those tragedies could have been avoided. I want to end this chain of deaths. Your Majesty, I don't want you and Suwon or Suwon and Yona to hate one another any longer. Suwon will not hear my voice, so please, King Il, for our children's sake, could you find a path to reconciliation? I'm sorry for using what little time I have left to make such selfish demands. In truth, I wanted to chat with you one last time. May your reign be one of unending happiness. That's where her journal ends. Lady Yonhi wished to reconcile with my father. I wonder what he thought of all of this. If he read it, then he knew Suwon would kill him one day. And she thinks back to her father saying, Suwon is out of the question. How much ever you may wish it, I might let you have him. He said that because he knew. Or perhaps because Suwon was Uncle Yuhan's son, and he was still bitter. She's like, something's inside this bookmark? It's like, this is, and she folds out a piece of folded paper. It's like, Father's handwriting. Why is it in here? She's like, Yonhi, I suspect you are no longer with us. It's like, it's a letter to Lady Yonhi. I write this knowing it will never reach you, but upon reading your words, I can't stop weeping. I'm writing this to confront you and to confront myself. You have suffered terribly from being caught up in the friction between me and my brother over the years. You may think our relationship ruptured when he purged the priesthood and that you are to blame, but you are wrong. Since childhood, our personalities and outlooks were completely different. I believe myself unbothered by the fact that he was always more skilled and more loved by the people. But when you, a descendant of the Crimson Dragon King, appeared, all my festering jealousy toward him came bursting out. That was not your doing. There was no trust between us. He and I each cared about completely different things and wished to avoid very different things. I knew my brother was concerned about me, but I was never comfortable speaking with him. I would tremble and choke on my words. I'd start rambling about the wrong things entirely. All these years later, I still regret it. Yes, I said that Kashi was the supreme mother and that Yona was a reincarnated Crimson Dragon King. But that wasn't what I wanted to say or make him understand. I cared deeply for Kashi. I loved her. Just as my brother cherished you more than anything, she was irreplaceable to me. I wanted to persuade him that she had not deceived me. Blah, blah, blah. Thinking back, I realized I never told her how I truly felt. Reading your journal was a shock to me. I could no longer tell her the truth. I thought she knew everything as a priestess. Yonhi, as you can see, I am inexperienced and a coward. I am unable to inspire others, let alone myself. No one needs to tell me so. I am not suited to being king. I do not believe I'm capable of defeating your son. He will kill me. Kashi predicted it, and I will not try to stop him. When that day comes, I'll accept my fate. I'll hold no weapons. I will surrender. I never want to take another life. Kashi said I would be the father of the Crimson Dragon King. I felt that explained why I was so drawn to the Crimson Dragon King. I was thrilled, but I never wished to become king. I only had a powerful desire to prevent my brother from becoming king. I'm a placeholder until the next person takes the throne, until Yona eventually reunites the Dragon Warriors. All I can do for now is to be mindful as I raise Yona, the reincarnation of the Crimson Dragon King, to prevent another tragedy like what befell Kashi. Ever since her death, I've been unable to trust others. I allow as few people at my side as possible. Yona always looks so forlorn as she waits for Suan, but it's difficult for me to go near him. I just don't know how to deal with him. You mentioned in your journal that Suan won't prioritize Yona. That's one possible future, but I cannot accept knowing that I will die, that Yona will be alone. If that day does come, I'd like to leave someone by her side who cares for her more than anyone. Someone who won't betray her no matter what. Yon He, I thought though I should be your enemy, you still wish for my happiness. Sometimes the weight of darkness and sorrow threatens to crush me. But then somehow I think of my brother, I'm always surprised. I imagine him giving me his typical brash advice and surprisingly being able to answer him honestly. That's how I wish to talk to him. It's so strange. This journal is full of painful memories, and yet I find myself searching for reminders of those who are no longer here. I can't bring myself to burn it. And just cinches the bookmark back together. You have chapter 198, a member of the royal family. You have Senju Herb, Senju with me, Sumin. It was Minsu, sorry. Fuck Minsu. Yun's like, oh, hello, meet again. He's like, that herb Senju, I'd like you to tell me more about it. He's like, but it's like, I'm trying to cure a particular illness. Please, I'm begging you. It's like, what kind of illness? It's like, I can't say. Mother couldn't cure the Crimson Dragon sickness either. It's not an illness that can be managed by a herb, but I've got to try every possibility. And Yun's like, I'm not at liberty to say, but if I go to where it grows, I might be able to ask for some. It's like, really? It's like, but I'm not sure I can. I came here with Yona, so I might not be free to leave. He's like, he's one of Her Highness's friends? He's like, I'll come again. And Yun's like, are we done talking? He's like, I need to get him permission to leave. I must do whatever it takes to get that herb. It's like, Advisor Kashuk will... It's like, and he sees Suan slumped over. It's like, the 4 dragons. It's like, what? It's like, he seems to have taken ill during the military exercise. We wanted to call someone, but he told us not to. It's like, this is bad. If someone sees him here, it's like, don't worry. It's merely lack of sleep. It's like, he seems to have a headache. It's like, it's just exhaustion. It's like, we'll help you carry him somewhere. And Suwan's like, there's no need. Please go about your business. It's like, he got right back up. It's like, that's remarkable willpower. And Jaeha's like, I'd say he knows something. That guy who rushed over seemed to be downplaying it. It's like, of course. The king's health is a closely guarded national secret. What's more, they're trying to keep the Crimson Sickness hidden. Ordinarily, we'd be put to death for finding out. So does this mean we're off the hook? It's like, we may be, but if anyone else finds out, it's like someone's been watching us. It's like, that explains the feeling I have. An assassin, maybe? It's like, wait now. Did Yona learn about the king's condition? Is that why she's refusing to see Huck? Possibly. As one of the royal family, the young lady understands the significance of this secret. But now we know too. Yona doesn't have to bear it alone. I'm here because Yona asked me to go with her. It's like, you're right. We started this journey in order to protect her. And Yona's like, Lady Yon He was worried about me even though I was King Il's daughter. And I'm so glad to have learned a little bit more about Mother. It's like, phew, Minshu Sir is late. It's like, is he still in the library? And you see one of the other attendants, or one of the other dudes going, I have a message from Minsu. An urgent situation arose. He asked you to return to your chambers for the day. Hewley will accompany you there. And she goes, I'll wait here until Suan returns. Tell Minsu that. And he goes, I'd like to ask you to refer to him as His Majesty, please. She goes, there's no point pretending to swear fealty. And she goes, an urgent situation. Suan might not be doing well. It's like, Your Highness, you're still in the office? It's been 3 days. It's like, it's all right. I've had meals brought here. She's like, in all these books, I wasn't bored. Like, she's Lord Suwan's kin, all right. It's like, where's Suwan? I want to discuss something. It's like, a South Kai envoy is coming for talks today. It's like, about the ongoing dispute with the Earth Tribe. It's like, that's right. It's important, so he won't be here today. It's like, I see. Do you have Minsu? It's like, come here for a second. It's like, I'm going out for a bit. It's like, I'm going too. It's like, something's wrong with Suwan, right? It's like, Judo's like, please stay here. She's like, I'm already aware of his illness. I'm keeping quiet about it as promised. Is there an issue with me seeing him? And you have Keisha going, Your Medicine, Your Majesty. He's like, I don't need it. The envoy will be arriving soon. That will only put me to sleep. It's like, it merely masks the pain with sleep. It's like, my head feels as though splitting open. Is this what Mother had to endure? It's like, Keisha, give me my coat. It's like, Mother took ill at 36 and passed away at 39. This is entirely unexpected. It's like, this is far too early. It's like, Your Majesty. It's like, not yet. I need to stand up. And Yona confronts him. It's like, General Judo, why did you bring Her Highness here? It's like, Princess Yona, please leave. Hold on, my dogs are acting up again. And Acacia's like, Princess Yona, please leave. She's like, be quiet. Suwan's head hurts. It's like, Suwan, do you intend to look so haggard before a foreign envoy? They're the last ones who should learn the king's unwell. You shouldn't attend the meeting. And they're like, he has no choice. The meeting's with the Kai Empire. Their envoy came all the way to Hiryu Palace. The king must appear before them. She's like, I'm not so sure. You talk about common practice, but it feels so unusual for Suwon to take such risks. I think he should ice his head and sleep. Lady Yon, he spent all her time resting, but you overwork yourself. And he's like, it's like, Minsu, his medicine. It's like, right away. He's like, hold on, the envoy's already here. We can't turn them away. They must see the king. She goes, who's turning them away? There's another member of the royal family right here. And you have, how long will they keep us waiting? Is Koka's king ready yet? It's like, we represent Emperor Chagol of South Kai. It's like, we're very sorry. Please be patient a while longer. It's like, you say that, but you've kept us waiting for ages. I grow tired of looking at an empty throne. You have someone's here. And you see Yona coming in, dressed in her regal garb. It's like, a woman? What? Not the king? What a disappointment. Who is this? And Keishuk's like, we apologize for the wait. This is King Suwon's cousin, Princess Yona. Like, where's the king? His Majesty is unable to attend today. Princess Yona will lead the discussion in his place. It's like, ridiculous. You keep us waiting and expect us to negotiate with this girl? This is beyond disrespectful. Bring out the king. And you have Kai is a large nation. No matter how powerful we become, they continue to believe that Koka is beneath them. I doubt Princess Yona can bring them under control. We have no choice but to stall for time until His Majesty recovers. And she's like, I'm not merely Suwon's cousin. I'm the late King Il's daughter. I'm here because I wish to be here. It's like, even for a blood relative referring to the king so casually, does she hold considerable status in Koka? It's like, regardless, the leader of your Earth tribe should be here as well. It's like, their actions in Kin province were intolerable. It's like, you meet General Gunte? It's like, that's right. They hoard mineral resources and commit violent acts against the people of our nation. It's an act of aggression. Retaliatory action will be entirely justified. We still haven't received an apology. We demand an apology, an apology, an apology. And they're just slamming their fists down on the table. And Judo's like, those mineral resources belong to our nation. We were victorious in the battle in Kin province. That battle was a pure act of aggression. So they don't take us seriously at all. So I need to put an end to this before she says something inappropriate. And Yona goes, I was in a nearby village at the time. The remnants of the South Kai army suddenly barged into town and started killing and pillaging out of spite, even though the people of Kin province belonged to the same nation not too long ago. Do you know anything about that? Like, I do not. What's more, there was human trafficking in the Earth tribe town of Awa, while Nadai was used to cripple our people in the Water tribe. I have personally seen all these things. I was like, what of it? Indeed, we had nothing to do with any of that. Oh no? Well, that's fine. We sank all your ships that arrived in Koka. We've put an end to the human trafficking and the Nadai, and we've arrested the South Kai merchants and noblemen responsible. I thought I should let you know. It's like, you what? It's like, oh, so you do know what I'm talking about. Then they're all just talking back by her political acumen, and she goes, now then, let's get this meeting started. All right, man, I don't even know where to start with this volume. Like, first, I guess I have to say, I am very, after how strong the last volume was, I don't think disappointed begins to kind of sum up my feelings with regards to this volume specifically. And there's a few reasons for that. I'm trying to figure out like how I should kind of go over them. I guess we'll talk about the main, I guess, characters of the flashback. So first of all, Yeon Hee being such a passive character in a series like Yona, where, you know, there's so many more compelling, forceful women that take the initiative, was a disappointment in and of itself, which wouldn't have been, you know, so terrible in that, like, not, it wouldn't have been so terrible if that was the extent of it. Because I'm not saying, you know, there can't be women that aren't, you know, weak like that in a story. But the fact that we don't really ever see her struggling with her conflicting emotions for Yuhan, who we've now basically got absolute confirmation that he is as monstrous as his reputation was made out to be. You know, that he did, in fact, probably did commit all those crimes that happened in the Fire Province, that he did immolate a bunch of priests that were innocent, you know, purely out of spite. The fact that, one of the attendants is like, he has a reputation for murdering women and children, as a way to, like, just the means justify the ends. And the fact that she's basically unfazed by any of that, and all we ever see is her saying, like, oh, I just want to spend more time with my beloved husband. Like, oh, I love him so much. Like, oh, can't he just reconcile with, his brother? Like, can't we all just be like a happy, loving family? Like, it feels like Kusanagi-san didn't want to pass judgment on Yuhan for all the stuff he's done, and it didn't really feel like, there was an unreliable narrator bit going on with Yeon-hee talking about Yuhan. And I think part of the problem with that might be the fact we just haven't spent enough time with them. Like, there hasn't been as much development or time spent with them as there was with Suwon, Yona, and Huck. Because again, like in the prior volume, the moments where we had the conflicting emotions between Suwon, Yona, and Huck, those have hit a lot harder because I feel like we were more invested in them as characters. We've seen their struggles playing out. We've seen the development that's come about because of that, as they're trying to reconcile their emotions. So I feel like part of the reason that Suwon or Yeon-hee and Yuhan's struggle weren't as impactful with the conflicted emotions. We just haven't spent as much time with them. But at the same time, like I mentioned, one of my favorite parts of the previous volume was the relationship that built up between them. And the fact that this revelation didn't impact that, didn't change that in any way, to me, doesn't feel right. Like, it doesn't feel believable or realistic that there would not have been a tangible change in their relationship when this information came to light, especially with Yeon-hee lamenting the whole, like, oh, I blame myself because he's doing this to protect me. Like, all of that, like, none of that led to, like, any kind of conflict between her and Yuhan. Doesn't feel believable, especially when she sees Kashi. Like, she doesn't seem to feel any guilt about the fact that Kashi got burned and had to go into hiding, had to take on a new identity purely because of Yuhan's grudge against the priesthood, like, what they supposedly had done. We'll get to that as well, because that's another issue I have with this specifically. Which brings us again to Kashi, who's somehow even more of a passive character than Yeon-hee is. And I think one of the things that annoys me the most, and this is something where I'm like, I have to hold off on this because I don't want to pass judgment yet when the story hasn't played out. But I really dislike the whole, like, oh, she's fated to do this, where the characters kind of just takes on a defeatist attitude because, like, I've already predicted all this. I know what's going to happen. I've accepted my fate. There's nothing I can do about it. And that just leads them to becoming absolutely passive in every regard. And I feel like that's what I dislike the most about Kashi's character, where she's like, oh, I know Yona's going to become the Crimson Dragon King. She'll be protected. I don't have to worry about it. I've seen the future. I hate that as a storytelling trope. And I hate the fact that, like, it's kind of setting up this whole idea of, like, oh, Yona's the destined chosen one. She will bring peace to Koka. Like, she'll reunite all the tribes and everything like that. I really, really dislike that. And I think that's part of the double whammy of why I dislike this flashback so much, is Kashi and Yeon-hee being such passive observers in it kind of just annoys me a little bit when I expect better from this series with regards to that. And at least Yeon-hee has kind of the excuse that, well, she's having the Crimson Sickness, so, she might not have been able to do whatever she desired. She might not have been able to fight back or advocate or do whatever she needed to do because the sickness was, keeping her bedridden and all that. But Kashi doesn't really have that excuse because she's kind of just like, oh, I saw the future, so, there's nothing I can change, blah, blah, blah. It's just didn't sit right with me when we have that. And then that brings me to the other part of the conflict, which is between Il and Il and Yuhan, where Kusanagi-san's obviously trying to go for like the whole idea of like, you can't perpetuate the cycle of vengeance and revenge because it's just going to lead to more, cycles of revenge and like regret, revenge, guilt, like murder, all that kind of stuff. But again, it isn't very well executed because so much of the conflict is kind of just exposited towards us rather than us viewing it and learning about it. It's just been like exposited towards us, especially with Ill's like huge ass letter at the end being like, oh, let me break down exactly why the relationship didn't work, why we had grudges, blah blah blah. Like, rather than expositing it, we should have been more active participants in actually seeing the conflict between the brothers playing out. And like on the one hand, there's some good characterization with regards to that, where Ill's like, Yuhan was a much more forceful presence than I was, which made it much harder for me to, confront him, fight back against his policies, blah blah blah. So I tried to do the best I could. Like, those moments were good, but they're buried in so much exposition and other stuff that the impact didn't really come across as well as it could have. And then I think this ties into like other issues I've said before. But oh my god, he's being like, oh, I can't believe I was so bigoted towards the priests, the religious. It felt so awkward reading that line specifically. It just felt so awkward because, again, the series unfortunately has not done enough to flesh out the history of Coca, especially, the supposed conflict between the church and the state. Like where the beginnings of that indemnity started, what caused it to flare up, things like that. So it's very hard to kind of buy into the struggle of, well, on the one hand, it made it hard to view Yuhan as a sympathetic character when he's committing murders and genocides, in the name of protecting the empire, protecting the peace. And when we don't know where his animosity, where his grudge towards the priesthood began, like what the source of it was, apart from just being like, oh, I don't like them telling me what to do. So when he gives the whole line about like, oh, I let my bigoted assumptions about the priesthood based on this one interaction, blah, blah, blah. Because we don't know anything about the priest, and again, we're exposited towards by having us be told like, oh, the priest was actually really nice. He went to us and told us like he laments how we were treated and everything. Again, this is something we're told rather than seeing. And the way, again, the priest was drawn in the first scenario, it, like in retrospect, you can say like, oh, it was an unreliable narrator thing on Yeon Hee's part because that's how she viewed him, blah, 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 based on her history and everything. But it didn't really come across like that. So again, the impact of her saying like, oh, my bigoted views because of this, like blah, 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 it doesn't really land because it was never shown that was the intent in the first place. So yeah, like that's why I was kind of grown when I saw that line, because I'm like, you can't just shoehorn this into the story without doing the work to lay some foundations for it, because then it kind of just falls flat. Like everything, the structure's not going to hold up and it's going to collapse in on itself, which is what happened with this volume. And I think the part I dislike the most about this is Yona calling out the Kai Empire, being like, oh, like, what are your expansion efforts? I think what I hate the most about this is how the series is trying to play the middle ground by trying to argue for, the idea of a good empire. Because Yona at the end is calling out the South Kai Empire for being like, yeah, you attacked your citizens, you're doing drug trafficking, human trafficking, blah, blah, blah. How dare you call yourselves good, try to portray yourselves like this, blah, blah, blah. And then, and this happens right after a volume where we learn that Yuhan was going around subjugating other empires, for the good of Koka as well. And there's no sense of like Yona understanding the hypocrisy there, where she's like, we're calling out these other kingdoms for all the stuff they're doing, but we're not considering the fact that our kingdom is also going around annexing other neighborhoods, for our own good, to grow our own empire. Because again, it's none of what we've seen so far has indicated or shown that Suwon has like some greater plan, that he's like, actually liberating these countries from a despot or a tyrant, whatever, or that they're going to be significantly better off under Koka's rule compared to everyone else. Because we've seen that Suwon really cares about the Earth Tribe and like all the other territories within Koka, but not the ones that he's annexing. And this brings me back to the issue I had at the very end of the Fire Empire stuff with Koren and Tao, where she points out, our empire was subjugated by Koka. We suffered under your hands. Why should I be able to trust this new king, and trust that he has our best interests at heart? And Yona's like, I know Suwon, he's a good guy, blah, blah, blah. And even after learning all of this, learning about his past history, learning about what his father committed, learning that his father actually committed the crimes he was accused of, she somehow still is unable to process like the nuances of the situation. Like, it still seems like she has a very black and white view on this. And again, this might be a premature judgment. Like, maybe this will change the next couple of volumes, where we'll see Yona starting to like grapple with a lot of this. I don't feel like that's going to happen. I'd like to be pleasantly surprised, but I don't feel like that's going to be the case. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm due for a reread of the volumes, a lot of the earlier ones, especially because I feel like I've forgotten a lot from that. So maybe my mind will change. Maybe I've missed some of the foundation work that Kusanagi-san did lay out in earlier volumes. I don't think that's the case, though. Give me a second. I don't think that's the case, though, but I will go back and look. I might do like a mini video review on this with more solid thoughts. But yeah, this honestly was ultimately really, really disappointing how this was handled. We'll see if it improves in the next volumes, but yeah. I did say earlier I might do 2 Yona of the Dawn volumes today, but honestly, I think I'm just going to do the one. I need to kind of sit with my thoughts on this for a little bit, because yeah, I'm really, really disappointed how that played out. Yeah, we'll see. I apologize, I went on a little bit of a rant there at the end, but I really was expecting better from the series. Despite that, I hope you all enjoyed this video. If you disagree with anything I said, please feel free to post some counterpoints in the comments. If there's something I missed, again, please feel free to let me know. I'm absolutely open to having a conversation about this. But apart from that, if you did enjoy my video, if you thought I made some good points, please do like, comment, subscribe, all the good stuff. Like I mentioned at the beginning, it really helps me promote my videos with the algorithm, especially ones like this that aren't as popular as some of my other videos on my channel. So any help with promoting them would be greatly appreciated. And until next time, this is Ash. I'll talk to you all later.